The Civil Engagement Group called for equality, transparency and sustainability in Budget 18. Yes, economic transparency, but also social and environmental transparency. For a government with a great capacity in relation to communication, it's telling that those qualities did not jump out of the pages this afternoon. There were 5 principles that the CEG set out, that the budget would deliver joined-up thinking for sustainable development. I've already mentioned the elements of that which come through the sustainable development goals that Ireland has signed up to. Prioritising investment in public services and social infrastructure. Address social, economic and gender inequality. I might just even mention briefly 70% of carers in this country are women. And there's issues in relation to family, young people, elderly people and whatever as well. Taxation, fairness in taxation. We are a low tax take country, and at the same time that we have huge unmet needs across all the spheres, whether it's disability, children, older people and whatever. And that we need to meet our international standards and commitments. I note that in relation, I mentioned it very briefly, the whole area of carers. Family Carers Ireland are very disappointed that the response to its call for investment in home care seems to have fallen on deaf ears. Lack of appropriate home care, respite and other vital community supports, personal assistance and all of these areas. They've also said that they're disappointed in the sense that thousands of family carers across the country in contact with their centres do not have enough home care support, leaving them burnt out and stressed, with their own health being put in jeopardy. Emergency respite is a huge issue, and we even heard on Taoiseach speak about it the night he was elected Taoiseach. And I know we have people with disabilities, adults with disabilities, who are now acting as carers for their aged parents. That's where we are in 2017 as we move into 2018. So we also have over, and these are HSE figures, over 1,200 young people with disabilities in nursing homes, and that is because the services that are needed for them to stay in the community are not there. The Taoiseach this morning is reported as saying that the average family will be €500 to €600 better off. Maybe so. But what of the average family where there's a disability? And I'll say this much. That family, and there'll be another 60, 70, 80,000 of them next year that are not dealing with that issue today, that family would happily give up their €500 or €600 if they knew they had access to the services, supports and information that they need in a timely fashion. This budget statement did not even reference the United Nations Convention, yet the Convention was strongly and repeatedly referenced by Taoiseach since he was elected. In other words, today we're marched up a hill like the Grand Old Duke of York, only to be pushed down again. We've had 4 months of talk about ratification and the needs of people with disabilities, and then we get a damp squib today. I do want to acknowledge that there have been disability improvements in the last year, and there were a number of things also set out today, which I'll come back to. My bitter disappointment is that this budget could have been a game changer. It could have set the plan for, it could have given hope for the emancipation of people with disabilities and their families. This is this state's UN Convention commitment. We have a Minister for State supporting the government on disability issues for the first time ever, and yet who attends cabinet meetings, and yet the government can't have a coherent whole of government package in line with the stated commitment to improve the inclusion of people with disabilities. Despite promises from Taoiseach on his appointment, the disability community, and I'm sorry to say it, has been sidelined. People with disabilities should not be sidelined at a time when so many issues currently impacting directly on them need to be addressed in order for the government to implement its own commitment. As recently as last week, the Taoiseach said he wished to acknowledge absolutely that there are lots of shortcomings and problems and that plenty more needs to be done. He also referred directly to finalising spending priorities for 18 and that disability, and I quote, will have to form part of the budget and estimates programme. I'm sure we will find additional funding for disability services. The Taoiseach made other statements. I acknowledge absolutely. As a government, he said this on the 14th of June, as a government we're renewing our commitment to ratify the Convention this year and to improving services available to people with disabilities, special respite care and emergency. And on the same, and also on the 4th of October last, in the context of spending reviews, that disability will have to form part of the budgetary estimates. And he said to me in correspondence recently, I appreciate that ratification of the Convention is of major concern to people with disabilities and their families, and agree that it is not good enough that so much time has elapsed before we have done something about it. Okay, let me cut to the chase. In the absence of any further clarification, and I hope there will be, poverty will remain stubbornly high because of the extra costs of daily living that are not being tackled. There is no comfort that there will be resources to support people to stay living in the community. Young disabled people, 1,200 of them, are in nursing homes today. There is no commitment to provide social housing to tackle the growing waiting list. There are no resources to turn around the appalling unemployment rate for people with disabilities. The SNA announcement was really standout today, 1,000 SNAs. Where are the kids that they're working with going to go after school? That's the conundrum, and government isn't thinking about that. The 5% increase, the Christmas bonus, the reduction in prescriptions, drug threshold payments, increase in telephone allowance and the charities tax relief. They're all to be welcomed, but they're very marginal in the scheme of what needs to be done. This budget had the resources. This government has the capacity to present us with a whole-of-government approach. You have a Minister of State there to assist with it, and that hasn't happened. And it is a sad day for the 643,000 people with disabilities in Ireland, and there wasn't something in this budget for everybody, as Senator Burke has suggested. Thanks very much, Senator.